New York Democrat Jose Serrano represents the Bronx and that $300,000 earmark.
I make no excuses about getting the federal government to earmark dollars into that district. Let me repeat that again. I make no excuses about the fact that I earmark dollars to go in the poorest congressional district in the nation, which is situated in the richest city on earth. I never saw you get up and complain about the fact that we're building arts facilities in Iraq, that they're building supermarkets in Iraq, that we're promoting basketball in Iraq, that we're promoting baseball in Iraq. You haven't said a word, but a couple of $100,000 to one group of American citizens, that's a problem for you.
Serrano won that argument as more than 80% of House members voted to keep his special spending project intact. But Flake has gone after other projects. $150,000 for the Arthur Avenue Italian food market in New York City.
I would argue that this is one cannoli the taxpayer doesn't want to take a bite out of.
$900,000 for a small business initiative at West Virginia's Fairmont State University.
This earmark is vague in its description, offering no more than a general sketch of the purpose of the funding and making true oversight nearly impossible.
And $1 million for the Kentucky Tourism Development Association.
Now, I love traveling, as everyone here does, and I'm all for seeing Kentucky tourism continue to grow. But again here, how do we justify favoring this tourism association and not others?
In that case, Kentucky Republican Harold Rogers, a 26-year House veteran on the Appropriations Committee, said Kentucky has every right to benefit from earmarks, just as Flake's state of Arizona has in the past.
I would support today the earmarks over the years for the Central Arizona Water Project that enabled Arizona to grow and prosper and boom as it is now in providing jobs for people. But I would hope the gentleman would realize there are other parts of the country with much, much smaller needs, but equally as important to the people that live there.
Throughout these debates, it has become apparent that for many members, bringing home special projects during an election year trumps the importance of trimming federal spending. In fact, despite contesting almost 40 individual projects on the floor, Flake hasn't succeeded in stripping even one. That has outraged Pat Toomey.
This is ridiculous. You know, when Americans discover that that's how they're running things, this is what's going to put the political pressure to changes. And Jeff Flake understands that very well. This is a kind of a long-term project. It's not a matter of getting enough votes this afternoon to get this $2 million pork out of the budget. It's a bigger project of educating the American public so that they can see how their tax dollars are being abused, so that they can demand the kind of reforms so that we can get this under control.
Still, the top three Republican leaders in the House, Hastert, Boehner, and Blunt, continue to insist they're being tough on earmarks.
What I'm trying to do is to bring more transparency and more accountability so that the earmarking that is done is an appropriate use of taxpayers' funds.
But none of them has cast a single vote in support of Jeff Flake and against any of those pet projects. Idaho's Mike Simpson says the leaders believe, as he does, that each member of Congress understands how best to address the needs of his or her district.
I spend more time in my state and know better what my state wants and needs better than any federal bureaucrat back here in Washington, D.C. So, you know, that's an argument that makes sense because I really truly believe I know my state better.
It's hard to keep a straight face for that argument. To think that members know their district best and therefore it's a good idea to spend $250 million to build a bridge to an island with 50 people on it. To think that because members know their district, we should be spending federal tax dollars to build and subsidize the Cowgirl Hall of Fame, or to build a $50 million indoor tropical rainforest in Iowa. You know, these things are just laughable if it weren't for the fact that it's real taxpayer dollars being spent on them. This has nothing to do with members' knowledge of their district. It has everything to do with members who think that these kinds of projects will help them get reelected because it'll sort of satisfy some constituency that they want to be placating.
However, the power of appropriators to approve projects and to do favors is part of the legislative tradition on Capitol Hill. And it's unlikely they'll want to give that up, even amid criticism during an election year.